Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a defensive tutorial. This has been probably what's been most asked of me for the start of this year. I know defending's been perhaps what's been changed the most, along with just the general left stick and that kind of responsiveness thing, but the defending is pretty significantly different this year, I would say. The positioning of the players, I think, is a little bit more sparse. They're more spaced out. But besides that, a lot of it still feels like FC25. You're defending the same kinds of attacks overall. It's just how they're able to generate them with the left stick responsiveness and all that is a little bit different, and there are just some bigger spaces you need to cover. Despite the bigger spaces, I am remaining as aggressive of a defender as ever. I have always been just like incredibly aggressive. It's mostly because on offense I try to attack with as many players as I can, and I, over a decade of playing this game, have needed to develop an aggressive defensive style to cover the gaps I leave from committing so many players up the pitch, right? So for me, I want to cover just really quickly the formation I've been using and what kind of defensive vulnerability that leaves me in. I've been using the 4-3-2-1. That's 3 center mids, 2 cams, and 1 striker. Center mid is on holding, which is more aggressive than I want, and sometimes they get forward, but they're kind of designed to stay in that center pocket. You've got your 2 CMs on playmaker attack, the 1 cam on playmaker attack, or playmaker balanced, 1 cam on Shadow Striker, and the Striker on False 9 attack, so they can kind of drift. And you get a general build-up like this. It can depend. Sometimes they are a little bit more vulnerable. You get a little bit more wide. Generally, if the CMs are here, as playmaker CM, sometimes they will get back in time to track. But most of the time, last year, everybody defended with the back 6, so you kind of had this many players guaranteed to defend with. Me, myself, right now, I'm using a back 5 kind of to defend the transitions, and it's still been more than enough for me, but I do need to be really aggressive to cover. You can see these massive gaps of space. What's really important about this is I still outnumber the opponent in almost every single transition. Nobody leaves 5 players up the pitch, right? So no matter what they're doing, whether they're in, I've seen the narrow be a little bit popular so far, or a lot of people are really frustratingly just kind of going right to the 4-2-1-3, like they want to play exactly the same as they were last year. I don't know why. Last year was a mess. But they're trying out the same formation, and I've got them outnumbered. And the CDM's role is kind of to mark the cam out of the play as much as they can and prevent those forward passes forward. Just kind of block the progression. But even if that one fails, normally the cam's not aggressive enough to contribute to the attack, and you're kind of defending 4-on-3. And what I do here, a lot of the time, you're going to see this plenty throughout the clips, is I will step up one player really aggressively. Because even if this player gets out of the play, and they do something like this, I've just gone from a 4-on-3 to a 3-on-3, and I'm still incredibly comfortable defending with missing one of my defenders. And there's some specific ways I do that, ways I kind of encourage or bait the opponent to play into certain positions that I still will cover. I kind of make something look like it's open and then take it away. But for me, the aggression's been the main thing. People aren't comfortable yet with the new dribbling system. The first touches and the sprinting are still pretty easy to take advantage of, so we're going to get through all of that. Let's get into some actual highlights so you can see what I mean. Starting off with this clip here, I'm just kind of going to generally let the clip play first, let it speak for itself, and you can see the idea I'm going to talk about before we actually dive into it. So this one, pretty simple, just a step up from the center back, but you'll see this a couple times here, I think. And the kind of thing here, I want to just point out the general position of the team here first. I'm stepping up aggressively to try to, you can see that I'm ready to intercept this. This is the pass I'm expecting. I'm just stepping immediately into it. This is only with Atibor, like a 76 rated center back, still able to do that just fine. The first time passes on this kind of thing, with SARS that is, not the most powerful this year. But what I'm also accomplishing, I want to point out, even if this pass isn't what the opponent goes for, if they turn and go this way, they can either look to make a dribble outside of my right back, or they can try to play a through ball onto this player. I'm still going to be able to adapt either way. The important thing, again, is I'm in a 4-on-3, and I can be aggressive and try to step and get all the advantages of winning the ball back without, immediately turning that back into a counterattack while I've got all my players still up the pitch. And not really, I do feel a little more susceptible this year than last from attacks that are built up. But also the main thing most people are going for is just immediate directness up the pitch anyway. Most people are just counterattacking and not bothering anything else, right, still. So I'm expecting the directness, and I'm kind of just stepping up to anticipate that. But again, even if this is not the pass, which I'm really expected for what it is, or for it to be one, even if that's not the pass, If they turn this way, I can still press with Hateborer. I can use this press to step and like make them step into the right back. Or I just switch over to this other defender of mine, and I just like switch here, start sprinting backward to track that run, and I'm going to be perfectly able to guard that through ball. I've also got my CDM here in case they turn back, or I've got my fullbacks I can pull inside in case I drop and guard this run, and they just decide to sprint forward. They're in a good enough spot where I can cut them off, and I can actually get my player over here, right, before they're able to sprint too far off the pitch. So it is because I'm defending in like particularly the right space that I'm able to do this. If Lawrence was up here, if Matson was up here, even just a couple steps forward, I wouldn't be able to guard that dribble with the cam as well, so I would not be as aggressive here. I'd need to stay back. But because of the general shape, I just step up, ends up being the right call. But even if it's not the right call, I'm completely confident that that one would work out for me, right? Going to the next clip here. See as I lose the ball. Be able to watch similar aggression. This is a poor decision from me. I don't have the fullback in this instance. The aggression I would do this again if the fullback were back. But because she's not, this is 3-on-3 and a little bit lopsided, so I should not be doing the aggression here. I'm trying to be aggressive to like force it because I'm not confident in this 3v3, but it'd probably be safer to just drop back. But I want to point out here, very poor pass from them, but it's also something that I force out of them. Now I switch to the center back Hateborer pretty quickly here. But these steps are making them think I might just immediately rush them down. You can see this movement with the defender, right? Kind of jockeying, making it look like I might be aggressive like this. The opponent's used to my aggression from that first move. So here I'm making the decision that I think they're predicting I'll be aggressive again, because I just was. And I use that to my advantage. So I make it look like I could step forward, sprint back and guard that pass. They pass it right into me. So that's something that's crucial to the way I defend, is making it look like I'm going to do one thing and opening up a certain option, making it look pretty obvious that the through ball should be what you do here, right? And making the opponent's decision for them, basically forcing them to go, this is going to be your option, this is what you have to do here, and then going, you have to do it, you're not going to just in time by the time that I actually get back and cover though. So very important for me again, is kind of making that decision for them and then covering what they think they have to do there. Get into the next clip here. Another transition. Again, you're seeing this is basically what this game is. And I'm doing the same aggressive move. I pulled the center back out. Not defended too well. You generally want to stay goal side. So it would be better if I kept the center back in front here. So goal side, if you're not familiar, is just, defender between the attacker and where the goal is. So generally speaking, you just want to keep your player in front here. I'm too aggressive and get behind. So not the best defensive play there, but I'm going to cover it super well. And you can see here, I've just got the numbers for everything. So even though I've lost literally an entire center back, most people would be panicking in this situation. I'm still, it looks like it's either 4-on-4 if you kind of count their 4 furthest forward and my 4 furthest back. Or it's kind of a 2-on-2 or a 2-on-3 if I can get Matson in. Maybe Endo would be the next 2 to track back. But what I'm doing here, I guard that run, so I take away that option from them. This is not going to be pass that's on here. I've covered that too well. And I just know, I'm keeping my eye on, I wish I had an eye tracker or something, but I'm keeping my eye on Lawrence, and I know I'm perfectly fine to just cover this with, Vig's daughter is her name, I believe. Perfectly fine to exclusively cover that there, because my fullback's just in front of the defender here. So that's, the main point of this clip is just, keep an eye on your defense. You want to make sure you've got everybody in mind and make sure you know what they're covering. A lot of people, I think, are pretty unaware of what their defense is doing. If Lawrence wasn't making this movement, I'd have to do something else. I'd probably take my center back here and just make them a little bit more flexible. So I'd be able to cover both passes, but neither one very well, both of which I'd have to drop back and probably start defending around the box, as opposed to keeping my defensive line up here. But because I know Lawrence is here, I can focus exclusively on this. That takes away that option, and they panic. Because everybody's so used to this transitional idea of get the ball up the pitch as fast as they can, they'll see spaces that, they'll see that there's a lot of space, but not a lot of opportunity, and they'll still try to move into that space and realize, oh, they didn't really have anything. The best move here for them is either to threaten a dribble and make me pull a player out of position even more, or press L1 on heaps and try to get this run going forward. But they decide to go with neither. and they just force the ball forward. So this is why the aggression is big for me. If you do come up against somebody who's better against, like, you know, holding the ball and taking their time, the aggression there is probably not going to be the best idea, because they'll be better at making sure their players are moving into good spots. But the directness that a lot of people are taking, and I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with, they're not really good at using that directness. They just go up the pitch really quickly, and I'm finding this aggression to work really, really well for me this year. Now this is another example of me stepping up, but it's a little bit longer, it's more prolonged of an attack for them. And the thing you want to see here is I've got my spaces covered really well. We end up defending this one here, put the pass on forward, and I've covered literally everything they can do. That's what you want to do on the prolonged attacks. You want to make sure they've got no options left, and that's when you can start tracking them down, because then they've got no options. What else can they do in that situation? This is immediately off kickoff, which is very susceptible this year. You will concede and probably score a lot of kickoffs. They're trying to hold on to the ball a little bit. They've got their players really wide, so there's two players here they're not really able to utilize. But the two strikers in the middle. And you'll actually see Toon here is one of my cams. So even though this is the 4-3-2-1, my two cams are in sometimes a useful defensive position. They've tracked back enough in this situation. And what you'll notice here, as they get in this position, what do they have left? And we'll talk about how they got here, like how I limited their options. Do they have this pass across? Probably not. It's really risky if you know, maybe Tiki Plus would be smart enough to put this on this side, but it's Camavinga. That pass is not going to be made, right? And anything that's going to be too close to Atibor will just be intercepted easily. Do they have this pass down here? In real life, maybe they can do like a give and go in that spot, right? But it's FIFA. These little 3-yard passes never work. Like the first touch is too bad off of them and everything. And they tend to put too much power on it. It's just weird. So this is never going to be an option. Do they have this pass on over to that player? No, I'd say Endo's too close in the way. Can they do that? Well, that's a lot of power you'd have to generate, and there's not a lot of space here. And I, again, took my cam. This is my center mid. I took my cam and actually pulled them further forward and dropped them here to make a flat 4. And that player is now completely taking this pass away, and that's the main thing. You really want to keep in mind, players will have the ability to get forward and not keep in mind if they have the ability to get out of it. So they'll just go, oh, it's direct. Look, I can get forward. I can get closer to the box. And all I do is, oh, this player's, you know, over here. This space was open. Now all I do is just drop this cam from here to here, and that space is no longer open, and they've gone. And I had such an easy option. Where did everything go? I've got no space anymore. And that's the important thing here. So I've taken away everything they've got. But let's cover how I manage that. So we step there, but no through ball opportunity onto that center back. So even though there's a ton of space here, they're backtracking here, they're retreating. Are they able to play this pass? Almost certainly not. And they don't go for it. I'm very confident there that that aggression is going to be okay because they can't take advantage of it. And they've got a pass over here, but I step up and cover what I think they were expecting to do, the move on to the striker there. So my aggression there takes that away, but doesn't move anybody else out of position and doesn't open any other options for them. And then it's this of allowing that to be open, but kind of keeping everybody in mind on the pitch and just going, yeah, that pass forward was open, but they're not going to have anything else after. So I don't even need to guard that pass. I just need to guard what they'd be able to do after it. You see, I don't even try my hardest with Toon to get in the way. Like I could do a slide tackle, I could sprint a little bit more. I actually let off the sprint button for a second there. The interception there is not what's crucial to me. It's just making sure there's nothing else they could do after. And so it's just going, do they have any options? No. Or like they've only got the one option, and then making sure, like, okay, here, let's say, they've maybe got two options. They can pass it forward here, they can pass it there. I've taken that away. So they had two options, and now they've only got one. And then, is this pass back up there? Very confident. You probably can't be certain of making that, because I can cover that decently well with Endo, just the way the positioning's worked here. Yeah, so they've got one main option, and then I've forced them down to 0 main options. There's nothing else they can do here. Very easy turnover, I get the ball back. So hopefully that all does make sense. Again, the thing for attacking, or the thing for defending for me, the more prolonged attacks the opponents will have, is them going, okay, I've got 3 options, and making sure you take it down from 3 to 2 options, and from 2 to 1 options, and then eventually you'll just get it down to they've got literally nothing else they can do. It's pretty easy for you to get the ball back there. This is kickoff here. Like I said, you'll see a lot of kickoff attacks. Oh, excuse me. This one is, I think the aggression with Endo I'm not minding because I'm still in a, yeah, I've got at least 3v3 or 4v3 here depending on how long this attack takes. And this, you just want to point out how quick this player switching is. So it's kind of the step with Lawrence, the right back here, that is making the opponent go, I don't have time on the ball here, I'm going to have to forcibly do something, I've got to move quick. So Lawrence is a threat. It's a very similar idea to, I think it was this one, of making it look like I'm going to do something right. I'm going to rush them down, and then I'm actually going to cover the pass. And they're too scared about the rush down, and they go right for the pass. If we look at, I think it was this play. Lawrence with that slight step, and then the immediate switch off. You can tell I am never ever thinking I'm going to make a tackle with Lawrence here. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. One step forward, that little threat. And then because I switch so quickly, I'm able to make the same step with this other center back. If you're delaying, if you're reacting, you're always going to be one step behind on defense. You want to be proactive. You want to be the one dictating what the opponent's able to do. So I'm proactive here, making them look to another option. And then I'm immediately proactive here going, again, the first touches aren't phenomenal. They haven't been for, the past couple FIFAs. Most players don't have first touch as a playstyle yet. And most people aren't comfortable enough with the dribbling yet to kind of react to these kinds of situations. So all they do, they've got one touch and they kind of panic and take it down. Maybe they could try to make a pass immediately if they had the reactions for it, but they weren't expecting me to be ready. So I force them into something, and then I'm immediately ready to defend that something. Let me say it again, because I think that's like the most crucial point here. I force them to make a certain option. It requires them to move. They are not able to just walk into me, right? Now, I will say, if you're a smart attacker here, maybe you just take Katoto and go directly back. Yeah, but most people aren't going to do that. Again, it's the directness. So you can't keep in mind, if you're facing a defender like me, what's strong is going to be just going away from what I'm giving you and just going, okay, it looks like I've only got one option, but I'm just going to go back and try to take advantage of some of my aggression. That is the downside of it. But you've got to, like, my aggression isn't immediately susceptible after, like, 3 or 4 passes. You've got to really work the ball around until it starts creating space. And that's when I just tend to back off into a more passive defender. Yeah, you're passing it around now, but you're not doing anything. You're just trying to wait for me to make a mistake. And so you're waiting for them to be aggressive next, when they're not really accomplishing anything. But if you're going here and, like, okay, it's a couple minutes into this game, if this opponent's being smart and going, I've had a couple attacks now, I've only been rushed down, maybe let me try to slow down and go, wow, I've had no success, let me try something different, maybe I'll just go backwards this time, right? That'd be the smart thing to do as an attacker here. Almost nobody you'll ever face will do that though, right? So it's just the little bit of aggression, making it look like they've got to do something, immediately covering that something. That's the, if you take away one thing from this game, use fake aggression to make the opponent do something, and then cover that other thing that you've already made them do. You know what they've got to do. You're forcing it to happen. But make sure you switch in time, that you're proactive and you're covering what's happening next. If you're reactive, again, I'll say, if you're reactive on defense, you're a step behind. You're letting the opponent control. You want to, if you have to be reactive, and that happens sometimes. If you're on a 2v1 and they could dribble or they could pass, you've got to be reactive. You can't force anything because the other option is too easy. In that situation, you want to delay and buy time and just wait for the opponent to, or wait for more of your own defenders to get back, or the opponent to try to make a mistake in that situation. And that's when you can wrestle control away from being reactive to being proactive. You always want to be the one making the decisions. Never let the opponent dictate what's happening, right? I don't have a lot of clips of that. Hopefully I will. I do plan on making a follow-up defending tutorial in the future for more longer attacks when you're defending, somebody who's building up for 10 or 20 seconds rather than just like the direct 5-second attacks. But that'll come in the future. There's not a lot of people who are playing that style, right? Now, a couple more clips to get on here. It's going to be another kickoff, excuse me. The main thing I want to point out here, excuse me, let me get the, oh, there's the video quality. Nope, it's gone, hold on. So the main thing here, I'll go through this pretty quickly. I just want to point out that these sprint touches and the first touches are really easy to take advantage of. So all I'm doing here, you might not think this is like a great example of anything, but I just want to say, if you see your opponent starting a sprint, that's when they're almost always the most vulnerable. And you'll see here, I'm expecting the sprint and how quick I switch over and close that down. So let's consider what heaps can do here. show. This is just a skill move. That's where the sprint instigates. That's where the sprint starts, right? And so we'll see sprint on this touch, this very next touch, right? It's only going to be... No, that's not the button I want. Excuse me. Nope. Let me try that again. It's only going to be another couple frames until, like, the immediate next, like, sprint touch there. If I jump forward... It's only 6, you know, whatever. I don't know if this is frames or milliseconds or whatever for YouTube. There's only 6 of these tiny little movements of the video forward, right? Until I've got the reaction to switch on over to Hatabar and just close that down. So it's the player switching is super important to get down, to just have that unlock and always be quickly able to take advantage of what's going on, right? See how quick that player switch is. What can Heaps do here? Once the sprint starts, can you really, like, pass it back here? This would be a turnaround, a 180 pass, or a back heel. Off of a sprint, that's kind of hard. The ball's kind of going to bobble and go in the air. You can maybe try it, but also the opponent's sprinting. Keep in mind, they're looking forward. In most cases here, that sprint forward, they're not going, I'm going to sprint forward as a fake to then make a back pass, right? They're thinking, oh, I'm sprinting forward. There's a little bit of space here. Let me move into it. Again, I've got a couple defenders around here, so I'm perfectly confident pulling the center back out, even if I somehow get beat here. But the first touch, can they get out of it? Like they kind of start, they stop sprinting, trying to react to me, because the sprint dribble is not going to be enough to get around me. The sprint dribble is too heavy. So you've got to stop sprinting to go into normal left stick to try and get around. And they just don't have the timing for it. I've been too quick and I'm able to get there in time. So just keep, like, if you're able to tackle the ball off of a sprint, or if you're able to like a kind of poorly executed sprint like this, right? Not a sprint in open space, so say like down the sideline, when it's like a one-on-one, that's a little bit different. But a sprint into somewhere guarded like this, that's always going to be pretty easy to take advantage of. Or on the first touches, if you can tackle the ball. Which clip was it? Hold on. I think it was this one we covered. Not that one. Then the one before. This one. You see, like, the first touch from Camavinga here, and then the turnaround, that's going to be the next best point, or, you know, as good of a point as I'm talking about with tackling the ball on sprints. That's when you want to tackle the ball on first touches. That's why this rush down works so well. That's why my aggression is something I enjoy so much and grants me so much success. It's because I'm taking advantage of them at the points where they're the most vulnerable. Off of those first touches, off of those sprints, where the tackles are just so much more successful, right? And I do like the tackling this year. It is a little bit more vulnerable if you miss, but it does seem a little bit more possession-based. I'm almost positive Vig's daughter doesn't have anticipate, so that's just kind of 85 stand tackles I think she has, and tackles it on, and like, you know, without the playstyle even, tackles it onto one of my teammates, so it is possession-based. So I do like the tackling a little bit more in that regard. It seems to bounce to the opponent less. Now we're going to cover... that was the sprint touch. So on to the next here. Got 3 more clips, it looks like. Gonna be a transition from the opposition here. This might be an example. Oh yeah, that's just the aggression. So you'll see, I kind of showed a clip as the first one of how frequently I kind of make these switches. Again, the switch is just so fast to the center back there. But how fast I make those switches to make that interception. But why does this one work in particular? It's the threat with Lawrence, in my opinion. Because I've got the switch down to her. Switch to the right back. And moving in this trajectory towards the opponent. They're thinking, oh, like, this is a somewhat heavy pass. It's a pass over distance. Again, that first touch is never going to be perfect. Right? That looks like a pinged maybe. Not a perfect first touch. This is also a silver card, apparently. So if the opponent knows that, they'll know. Silver card, not going to be the best first touch. And I'm going, it looks like I might just sprint them down. They're going to keep that in mind. So they know if I sprint them down, the tackle's just going to be too effective off that first touch. And that's where faking the sprint down, faking making that tackle immediately, and switching on over, realizing that's going to be the bigger threat there. That's what I think the opponent's more likely to do. The thing about all this, right, is the aggressive style is a bit of a gamble. If I make that rush down, and the opponent goes, you know, in this situation... The smart thing to do, realizing if they know I'm such an aggressive defender, is, you know, while they could kind of threaten here and just go touchline, though I don't think that's the most effective thing in this spot, the best thing would be just turn back. It's probably what you do in real life. I mean, you see teams make this kind of pass all the time and just let the fullback dictate. You know, you don't have to, like, get your whole team down the pitch in, like, this unified block. It can be forward, but then down, and then you know, these players are going to move forward slightly. And this player sits here, and you just kind of dribble and progress, and then, you know, you kind of do that thing, right? Nobody does that. It's FIFA. Nobody ever does that, right? I do that. Nobody else does it. So just kind of going, like, yeah. But even if they decide to just turn back here, right? I sprint here, I just step back. You know, I'm not going to follow them all the way. I'll swap to the midfielder and be more aggressive with them, right? One of these two. If they just go back, there's no danger there. You know, I'm just not going to follow all the way forward. I'll just let them get back into their flat back 4 shape before they're able to do anything. We'll be perfectly fine. But this is a prediction. So, you know, your predictions are going to work 80% of the time, and 20% of the time they will fail you. That's why you want to make sure that if they do fail you, what else are they going to do here? If I'm lacking another defender, if I'm, you know, down the right back and I'm just trying to, I've got to cover both these players with one, I'm not going to be that aggressive. I'm going to wait and buy time and just try to cover as much space as possible, slow things down, wait for my teams to get back. But because I've got the numbers advantage, it's still 4-on-3, really. Especially because Endo's tracking back here. Do they have the run on here? No, because my defender's still in front, so I'm goal side there. I'm confident I can get there before they can. I'm very confident that this aggression worked out for me. If it doesn't work, if that's not what they do, whatever, there's no downside. You know, I'll just take Attabor and I'll track back again. We'll get back into the flat back 4. Even if he's all the way up here, I'm pretty confident I can defend, you know, minus him with just these 3 against this opponent's 3 players, right? So I'm very confident in this situation. Down a center back, I'm still perfectly fine to do it with, you know, this 3-on-3 I think I'm just fine with. So just keep that in mind. If you are doing this aggressive style, you want to make sure you've got your other bases covered. 2 more clips we've got. Let's see what this one is. Yep, that's another feint. So again, my aggressive style, you're just seeing this time and time and time again. You watch me with Gomez. This is, what, a 76 rated Argentine defender. Very low rated. Perfectly able to track down. This is only Dzeko. So if this is Barcola, Ekitike, Holland, somebody with pace, you might actually want to take this guy and just drop back a little bit more and say, you know, I know this first touch can be a bit more explosive, more damaging, more dangerous, so I might cover that a little bit more, but I know this is Dzeko here. Played this game long enough, he's used them all match, right? That I decide to cover down here, and I've got this little feint. Now this is a center back with 80 pace, so about the same as Dzeko. I'm pretty confident I can close this down. Got this little feint to cover the pass, because I think this to this guy is going to be more dangerous by a little bit of time. Now Lawrence is kind of covering 2 players, but a little bit of bought time means she's actually able to cover both of them pretty effectively here, I think. So she's just kind of tracking back in this position. She'll be able to cover that. Just by a little bit of time, I take this again. This is the main thing. I take this option away, because you can see off that first touch, they might be thinking it, right? Let's show that again. Like, it's not immediately into a sprint. They're not holding RT as they do it here. So I'm thinking, oh, they might actually slow down and see if they can do that. But because I've moved down, that option looks like it's taken away. And that's just another little feint. Yeah, I think I bought enough time here. I think my other players are going to be able to guard that. I don't need to commit to guarding that. I faked them, and I can see they're facing up this way. I don't expect this pass to be very dangerous on this, like, you know, flat 45-degree angle or 90-degree angle over. I don't think that's going to be something I'm too worried about. And I forced them into trying to take the other space, and I've guarded that space. So same little feint down, look like I'm going to one thing, immediately move, and it's the quickness that's important. If you're delaying, if you move him a little bit too far away, if you know, move him a little bit too off balance so he can't track back and cover, if your spacing is a little bit off, all that can make the difference is instead of him being here, he's up here. That can be enough to make sure Dzeko gets in behind here, right? Because I've got margins here. It's knowing everything exactly perfect, right? You've got to make sure you've got the timing of all these things down. The switchers are quick and crisp. The spacing between everybody to make sure you can close them down, everything's got to be pretty on point to be fair. But I'm really good at guarding those margins, and trust me, if you get the experience doing all this, it's not going to be that difficult. I really don't think it is. I've got the timing down. Move back on. They've got, again, I've the same situation as before I've been talking about. they had two options. They had the pass and the sprint. I took away one option, so now they've only got one down left, and that's what I go and cover next. Is there anything they can do here? Yeah, I'm sprinting them down with the center back. If this run was a little bit better, you can probably try to like back heel that. You can risk... Actually, they do have a little bit of a pass back out wide, but this is aggressive, and I know the opponent's thinking directness. Oh, it's a one-on-one, I want to get to net. They're not thinking, I've lost the opportunity, let me make this pass up here. So that's why my aggression, I think, works really well, because they're committed in the aggressive, like, direct mindset. If you as an attacker can get out of that, of just being stuck, only having one possible thing you can do on offense, oh, it looks direct here, I have to be direct for the next 5 seconds, that's not smart. It looks direct here, let me pick my eyes up after I take my touch and see if there's anything else I can do before committing to being direct in case I lose out that opportunity. Even if you think you're not going to lose that out, you know, then at least you have a backup plan. And this guy with Dzeko might be smart enough to go, you know, I actually do have this layoff now that I've gotten closed off. Or they can try this down here. Endo might cover. I definitely have the time here, I think, to step up with Lawrence. I'd probably do the same thing here for what it's worth. I'd fake covering this and just sprinting, trying to take advantage of that first touch, and do this. And then I track back a little bit. So just make sure, you know, make them not have the best first touch. They've got to worry and wonder what's going to happen next. Instead of letting them have a good first touch and, you know, all the space to decide what to do next. I'm going to put them under a little bit of pressure, and then I'll immediately step back to make sure I'm covering the pass to, I believe that's Gakpo right here. It'll probably be the same thing I just did, same little move. You'll see me do this all over the pitch. Step 2, cover something, actually guard the other thing. It'd be the same down here. Step 2, cover something, actually guard the other thing, right? Especially here, because this is going to be a situation I'm actually kind of lacking both my center backs. I think, is it? I think these two are the center backs in this situation. And Timber, I think that is, and he's normally been my right center back, so he's actually quite out of position. So definitely, maybe if this might be a transition off a corner or something, I don't remember. No, that's Mountain. Okay, that one's Timber. Excuse me. You get the idea, though. I'd probably have to buy a little bit of time with Lawrence, so I wouldn't have the same aggression here with Gomez, whereas in this spot, I don't think I need to buy time. But I think you get the idea. This has been just what this video is about, is that little feint. Look like you cover one thing, cover the other. That was a bit weird from Endo. Looked like that tackle should have been made. That is the better stick there, though, this year, so I'm not going to complain too much. I do like that you're able to keep possession in those spots sometimes. Now, this is a bit of a better worked move from the opponent. And you'll see, actually, this is Gomez. This is my center back. I'm being this aggressive with the center back again. Try to double them down. We've got 3 over here, but I don't quite cover the wing enough. We'll take the cam back and cover the center. And yeah, even though this is my center back, I've still got the aggression. I just turned back. This is a reaction time thing. One, knowing this is Endo, it's not Yamal, it's not Messi, it's not going to be the best turn. And 2, just going, I switched off of the defender. They're not going to expect me to sprint them down again. And there, you know, they've only got 2 touches before I'm there. So it's again, that reaction time. It's knowing the timing of everything. The switch is done at a good spot too. I want to point that out. I switch about there, and that's kind of right after they've taken a touch. Let's see when the touch happens. So touch is back here. I've switched here. It's not a lot of reaction time for them, right? So I'm pretty quick to reacting and just going like, oh, they've moved off to the side. It's not the greatest touch from them. I can just immediately react and close that down. But I want to point out here, why am I able to be so aggressive with the center back? It's because there's nothing else on offer here. A lot of people are just scared of the aggression, I think, and it's like, people don't attack with that many players. I want to point out, again, people are just using the same 4 attackers as they did last year. If people commit more players forward, and I'm not saying you have to, I'm not saying it's even good this year, I don't know yet, but if people commit more players forward, I can't do this aggression. If I pull the center back out, you know, instead of being like this, where all they had was they gotta pass it back to the cam to have anything, there's nothing else they can do. They just gotta dribble away, they'll kind of get back to the fullback here, right? And there's just not gonna be, like, this is gonna slow their whole attack down. So I've won as a defender here, I'm just buying time, right? So doing this here as the aggression, it's perfectly fine. Whereas if they've got their shape like this, I can't do that. I can't do that at all, you know. If I step down like this, oh, it's going to be way too easy for the attacking guy to do that, right? All of a sudden, I'm guarding here. This player might be infield if this one's making the overlap a little bit more, right? Like, If you commit with more attackers, you know, I'm going to have to change my defensive style entirely, I assure you. But nobody does that. Everybody's using the same tactics as last year. It's, you know, a little bit of a boring start to this year, you can say, in that regard. But I'm normally in a 5-on-4 or a 4-on-3, and I'm just confident defending that in every situation. So if you look at this one here, how many attackers do they have forward? Well, they've got 3 almost in the box, 1 outside, 2 almost top of the box-ish. And I've got how many players back? We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got literally 9 players back. I'm on high. I've got 70 aggressive depth, I will say. My cams are on Playmaker and Shadow Striker. There's no like defensive cam option I'm on, right? They just track that back this far regardless. This isn't even off. Okay, this is off a kickoff. So maybe the team's a little bit deeper off kickoff, you could say. But like, I've got so many numbers back here, and they're not committing enough forward that my aggression with the center back is fine. This isn't the smartest. I mean, you can probably be aggressive with the CDM instead. I'm not saying like pull your center back 20 yards out of position. I'm saying if you do, make sure you know that like no other options are open. But there's nothing else they can do. They go back to the center back, and then the AI just drags them back here, and then everything resets back to normal, right? This aggression is only like managed to gain me numbers out here, so I've got more additional defenders out here they've got to worry about. That kind of allows me to defend with Bernardo enough to mark this pass back here. You can see him step out to guard that. Endo's close enough here. If they do any kind of cross, I'll be able to step there with Timber. I believe that's Timber. This other defender out here I think is Gwyn now, my right back in this game. Everything's just covered. They've got no other options. So my aggression is perfectly fine. When they've got options, I can't step like this, right? If they've got passing triangles, if they've got angles, if they've got through ball threats, don't pull your players out like this. But when they're just recycling the ball into nothing, I mean, I'm going to close you down. I'm going to take away your options. It looks like you've got things you can do, and I'll just slowly kind of tick them off the list and make sure you've got nothing left. So I think that is the end of this one here. Like I say, I'll try to put out another defensive one if I do learn anything else. If this ends up being not the way to do it, I learn something else, of course, I will happily do a follow-up video to this one and say this is not the best way to do it anymore. I will own up to that. But this is how I defended last year. This is how I defended this year. I've always been this aggressive. Again, it's because I commit so many numbers forward. I kind of, I'm used to defending with not a back 6 like everybody else did with a back 4 and then 2 CDMs, right? But my aggression has been perfectly fine for me this year, I think. There have been some games I've not been perfect with it. You know, I'm too aggressive. But in most of these, it's done just perfectly fine for me, and I'm enjoying doing it. I think defending in that way is more fun. It's more active. It's more effective for me, too. I don't like just relying on the AI, because then when you concede, it's like, well, the AI just messed up for me. It wasn't me. But yeah, this is enjoyable to me. I've been enjoying this year for the most part so far. And yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed this one. Again, if you do have any comments or any questions, anything, any feedback, do let me know in the comment section there. I will try to do a follow-up again if I find anything different, or if we kind of concede longer attacks. I'll try to cover how I go through those. But if you did enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody, now. Peace.